Hey guys, the next tool we're going to learn is the wheels, the Whitewater Wheels. And this is our strategy for how we help people grow in Christ. You know, as church leaders, basically our job is to help present everyone mature and complete. Paul uses the analogy, he says, like presenting a bride on her wedding day. That's what church leaders are doing. That's his goal, is to present the bride, the church, ready to be married, dressed in white, mature, complete, not lacking anything. And so we have to ask ourselves as church leaders, like, what can we do? How can we help people grow in Christ? Because you can't make anybody grow, but they do grow on their own if they're through the power of God. If they're letting God do the work. And so we ask ourselves, like, what can we as a church do to facilitate that growth? And this is kind of our plan. So I always start out and just draw the two circles if I'm doing both. Sometimes, depending on the audience, I'll just do one or the other. But these are like the Whitewater Wheels. And one of these is public and one is private. One, we really do want everybody in the church to know this. And then one of them, you don't really need to know unless you're kind of behind the scenes and planning stuff. So the first one is kind of our spiritual formation plan. That actually curved nicer than I thought it would. All right, and so this is real straightforward. The goal of this whole thing, and I feel like those are slightly out of kilter. I'll make that one a little bit bigger. If we say that's the middle, then we'll go from there and there. That's a little more balanced. Should be equal. The goal of this whole exercise is Christ-likeness. All right, so we're just going to start out with that. If you, I forgot how to spell there for a minute. If you do all kinds of good stuff and it does not form you to be more like Christ, then the stuff ain't working, and you should stop doing it probably. And so the goal of this whole exercise of spiritual formation, the goal is that we are more Christ-like. We should be more like Jesus as a result of being a part of our local church. If that is not happening, then there is a problem with our local church. All right. And what are the things that the church can do to help propel people towards Christ-likeness? Well, there's three main things there's more than three, but there's three main things that we say, okay, these are the things that we can give everybody. This is what we can do for everybody. We can do tailored stuff as well. Like, hey, I can invite you into mentoring relationships and discipling relationships and stuff like that. But like systematically, what can the church do? Well, the first thing is we can help everybody to participate in worship. Now, obviously, worship is more than just showing up on a Sunday morning and scowling at the people playing music, but complaining about the volume. But worship really is not just about what happens on Sunday. Our whole lives should be a life of worship. But it really does, like, the crystalline essence of worship should be happening on a Sunday morning. And so we want everybody in our church to worship with us on Sunday. Like, if you're a part of us, we want you to be here on Sunday. And this is what we think. We put a lot of energy into it. We think that Sunday morning matters, and we want all of our people to be a part of it. So the first thing we can do is we can worship together. The second thing we want everybody in our church to do is we want to commit to others. And obviously, there's a million ways we can do that in our own lives. What are the two ways that we do this in the church? It's primarily through serving and giving. So when you serve, like let's say you're working with the youths, all right, you're serving in the student union, or you're working with high schoolers or middle schoolers or something. The whole point of that is that yes, part of it is, okay, well, they benefit from that because of what's, somebody's taking care of them. But we are dedicated to the idea that doesn't just change them, it also changes us. So my serving doesn't just impact the person I serve, it also impacts me. In fact, frequently it actually impacts me more than the people that I serve, which I know when you frame it that way, it's kind of a selfish reason to serve, but it is what it is. And the second thing, so I'll put serving here. And the second thing we talk about is through giving. Again, okay, well, people are like, well, of course you guys want money because you got to run the budget and pay for stuff. And that's real. You got to pay for stuff. Until the electric company gives us everything for free, we're still, having to pay the light bill every month. But the real benefit of giving, like if one person, let's say there was just somebody who's super rich and they could just write a check for all of our expenses every year, and like you guys would never have to talk about giving again. that would actually be super unhealthy for us as a church, because what actually happens when we give is that we are actually transformed, because most of us, our God is our wallet, and so the act of giving actually forces us to confront what is most valuable to us. Does that make sense? So we could talk about that more. I'm not going to talk about it more here. But basically the idea is we want everybody to worship, we want everybody to commit to others, and then we want people to connect to a spiritual, let's see if I can fit this on this line, a little bit off, community. Some sort of spiritual community, all right? People are like, well, my neighbors are kind of my spiritual community. It's like, okay, great. When do your neighbors meet? Oh, well, we see each other sometimes when we mow our lawns. Okay, well, you don't really have a spiritual community. Well, I kind of have a spiritual community. It's kind of like my family is my spiritual community. Great. When was the last time your family was together? We haven't seen each other since Grandpa's funeral last year. Okay, well, then that's not really, you're not actually connected. You have people that you could call maybe if in an emergency, but you're not actually experiencing any kind of connection on a regular basis. And so, spiritual community at Whitewater, you're thinking like a small group? Yes, like a small group. Spiritual community has three requirements or things that make it up. First, it has a leader and a purpose. So there's some sort of a purpose that it meets. Maybe that is to do some sort of a serving project. Maybe it's we're going to study the Bible together. Maybe we're a community group and we're doing some curriculum. Maybe it's a care group. Maybe it's Celebrate Recovery. Could be all kinds of things. Maybe a huddle, whatever it is, like spiritual community. And the second, so it has a leader and a purpose. It meets predictably. All right, so not just whenever Grandpa dies, that's when we're going to get together, but like this is a thing. And the third thing is that everybody in the group is connected, cared for, and urged to grow. All right, so if you're a part of a spiritual community, you should be connected, cared for, and urged to grow. And if those three things are happening, then you're in a spiritual community. And that's what we want for everybody at Whitewater. So we want everybody at Whitewater to worship, we want everybody to commit, and we want everybody to connect. And we think that these three activities are going to help us be Christ-like. Does that make sense? It's not rocket science, but it's just a helpful way for us to think like, what am I supposed to be doing? Now, most people probably kind of drop in at the top, right? So they're going to do this. We think most people kind of go clockwise here. They're going to worship for a while, and then they're going to commit to others, and then they're going to connect. But it's not like you move out of this into this, out of this into this. We want to kind of fill in the whole pie, all right? So we want everybody to do all of these things. We think that's going to be helpful. Then on this flip side, when we're planning things at Whitewater, so if you're like, oh, I'd like Whitewater to do this thing, you should just know this is what it is that we have an environment. I know if it was like, you might be able to say, you might say environmental model, but for us, environment model. And this is the three environments that we have at Whitewater. We have foyer environments. Think of it like your house, all right? Somebody walks into your house for the first time and check things out. They're probably not like, oh, I'm going to come back to the kitchen and hang out. Salesman gets in the front door, you keep them by the front door, all right? So people that just kind of walk into Whitewater, a lot of times they're just checking out the foyer. And then the second is living room. And the third is kitchen. And we think that a normal progression is kind of this thing, but the reality is any one of these things might be the point where somebody experiences Whitewater. Are there people that are going to experience Whitewater first in some sort of a spiritual community? Absolutely. Is that their first touch to Whitewater? I hope so. That'd be awesome. Or are there people that are coming at some sort of like a living room type event? Hey, it's this like mid-sized thing or something that maybe we're serving together, or maybe there's something like that going on. Yes, absolutely. That's a real thing. And so, but we think most people probably hit the foyer first. That's just seems to be how it works. And so we when we're planning, we're asking ourselves, which environment are people experiencing first, or which environment are people experiencing now, and what does it take for them to experience wholeness and experience all of these things? So that is something that's worth thinking about. But we say that these two things together, put this and get this kind of up like this. We say these two things kind of drive the Whitewater bus. And I know that's not a very Nice looking bus, but you can probably draw it better than me. So that's it. That's the Whitewater Wheels. That's what drives the Whitewater Bus. And I think it'll be helpful for you if you look around to really understand, like, this is why things are the way they are. So that's it. See you guys.